That evening. After a century of neglect, I'm impressed to find the paint declaring Ferris and Sons still clinging to the brick of the large rectangular warehouse in some kind of defiance towards time. The roof isn't putting up as much of a fight. The metal corrugated tiles are peeling away, some, already fallen, lie discarded on the swath of concrete spreading out from the building like a dull gray moat. The warehouse is hidden from view of the town by the forest, and is far enough out on the edge that no one really pays it much attention. Out of sight, out of mind is a motto that suits Wayhaven quite well in general. There is still enough of a trail through the trees for me to drive my car up to the building, though I find my teeth clacking together more than once over the uneven dirt track. I'm thankful to pull up onto the concrete. The cracks are easier to deal with than the tree roots. Cranking on the handbrake, I lean over my passenger seat, ignoring the piles of crumpled paperwork, until my hands find the slim handle of my flashlight. It's a weighty piece of equipment, but its light slices through the gloom easily as I step out of the car. I glance over the shadowed scene of the abandoned warehouse, the moon beginning to rise behind it. The silence from the surrounding trees only makes the squeak of the metal doors echo louder. I can't help my mind running to who or what I might find inside, and whether it might be dangerous. I can mostly handle myself, but getting into a fight wouldn't be to my advantage. I'm better at using my mind than my fists. The whole uncertainty of the situation makes me anxious. My hand travels to the gun and pepper spray on my belt, though the gesture doesn't help to settle my nerves as much as I'd hoped. I can't tell if it's the chill night air or worry that makes me suddenly shiver, but I do my best to brush the feeling away. I press onwards into the warehouse, hoping to get this over with as quickly as possible. Inside, I sweep my flashlight across the interior of the warehouse, the beam of light flashing through the murky darkness. It definitely seems empty, though I'm not sure if that is relief or more of a concern. My shoes hit the dirt-caked floor, and I glance down. The tiles must have been rather beautiful at one point. Hints of yellow and red jut out between the dried mud, dust, and plants as my shoes scuff against them. Graffiti lines most of the crumbling walls, all of it spray-painted with perfect spelling and grammar. God forbid one of the rebellious rich kids' parents find out they had spelled "this place stinks" incorrectly. I roll my eyes at the mild language and tidy handwriting before wondering where to start. The ground floor seems as good a place as any to begin, and I move further inside. My light flashes across the wide space, the beam glancing off a cluster of burnt tin drums. A few ragged blankets are crumpled around them. I move closer to inspect. I don't find anyone homeless there, but there's definitely evidence that someone had been camping here. Maybe something spooked them to move on? I try not to let my thoughts linger on that idea and begin walking the edges of the large room. Nothing seems overly out of place. Remains of old factory machines lie rusted and heaped in the center, and a soft glow of moonlight through the doors gives a pretty clear view of the whole area. It's not until I near the doors again that I notice the flutter of plastic from one of the walls, like a curtain flowing in the breeze. I stiffen in place, my hands tightening around the light. "Hello? Anyone there?" I call into the gloom. No response, just the plastic curtain continuing to shift. "I'm with the police." A sudden flurry of movement sounds from behind me, and my heart leaps into my throat. I freeze on the spot, my heart thudding in my chest and my feet planted to the ground. The flurrying noise continues, and I grit my teeth, only glancing up when a feather dances down in front of my vision. It's a moment until I realize the noise came from the pigeons in the rafters leaving their perches. I shake my head and let out a sharp breath. Thank God no one was around to see that. Ah! I flinch again at the shrill ring of my phone from my pocket. The ringing stings against my hearing, which had grown used to the heavy silence. I snap my phone out of my pocket and press it to my ear without looking at who's calling. "Detective DeWolfe," I say, my voice coming out in barely more than a whisper. "You all right, Detective?" Verda asks from the other end. I clear my throat at the sound of his voice, shaking myself from the burst of adrenaline beginning to drain from my body. "Yeah, just got a bit of a scare at the warehouse." "Are you all right? Do you need me to send someone to you?" There you go again, Verda, being concerned for me, I say with a chuckle. I lean against the windowsill nearby, quickly changing my mind when the dust leaves a stain on my coat. His laugh echoes from the phone. Well, excuse me for being worried. You never know. It could be something worse than a murderer, like a ghost. A ghost? Really? I scoff. Or a werewolf. It is a full moon, after all. I give a chuckle, glancing out through the dirt-stained window to the bright moon beyond. The moonlight highlights the tops of the skeletal trees that stretch out towards town. As if anything that exciting would find its way to Wayhaven, I say in a heavy tone. Though, speaking of strange things, I found something odd about our victim. He lets his words trail off, and I shift on the spot, waiting for him to continue. So odd it's shocked you into silence? I ask. Almost, he replies, followed by a soft chuckle. It's her blood. There's the sound of shuffling papers down the phone. It's not hers. I frowned deeply, wondering if I heard him correctly. What? The blood in her body isn't hers. In fact, it's not even fully human. Animal blood? I offer as a guess. I'm not sure, he says, followed by a heavy sigh. It resembles human blood, but it's definitely not all hers. The best way I can think of to describe it so far is that a parasitic virus has mutated the blood cells in a major way. As I continue to talk, I decide to start making my way out of the warehouse. The echo of my voice around the empty room is a bit distracting. Is it contagious? I ask, a beat of worry in my tone. Like a disease? No, not that I can tell so far, he says. I won't know anything for certain until I get the results of the tests, but I'll make sure to send them off to the hospital first thing tomorrow. For all the modern appliances the station has, coincidentally donated by the mayor after his son decided to join the force, there isn't enough room for the big machines. Any testing has to be done at the local hospital. All right, I'll see you tomorrow then. Yeah, see you then, he says. I hit the end call button and shove the phone back into my pocket, grabbing the metal door to head outside, only for someone to come barreling into me from behind, sending me flying through the door. I collide heavily with the concrete and let out a loud hiss as pain jolts through my chest and arms. My flashlight skids across the concrete, the beam blinding me as it comes to rest a few feet away, shining brightly in my eyes. Forcing myself onto my hands and knees, I glance up, my body stiffening to see a shadowed figure looming over me in the moonlight. I scramble onto my feet, not wasting a moment before sprinting towards my car. Pain shoots through my legs at the hurried movement, but I press on. As I glance over my shoulder, I see the figure hasn't moved forward, but they have turned their body to face my retreat. Darkness floods the area, but it would seem the figure is a man, a gangly one. I turn my head back to face forward, my car only a few feet away from me. What the? My outburst is cut short, as out of the darkness another figure appears and slams into the side of the man. The two of them crash to one side, rolling behind my car. There is a loud grunt, then the distinctive sound of concrete cracking under force. I make to step back from the car, but my path is suddenly blocked by the appearance of 3 more people, hidden by the night's darkness. Heavily outnumbered and completely confused, now I have no choice but to reach for my gun. I yank it from the holster and point it at the group of shadowed figures before me, the sounds of fighting still echoing from behind my car. None of the figures seems to pay me much attention, a fact I am thankful for. Instead, they are all focused on the fight continuing out of sight behind my car. As I suck in a sharp breath, the sudden cold hits my lungs and shocks me from my momentary paralysis of confusion and anxiety. I take a wide step forward and call, "Everyone stop! I'm with the police!" The heads of the 3 figures snap around to face me, and I flinch at the eerily quick motion. "Who the hell is she?" one of them asks. "A police officer, obviously," another replies, no small amount of sarcasm in their tone. The car beside us suddenly rocks slightly, the 2 people behind it finally surfacing. The taller of the 2 slams the other onto the bonnet of my car, and I frown as the metal buckles beneath the heavy impact. "All right, that's enough," I yell, surprised at the commanding tone to my voice, considering the situation. The figure holding the man down glances up at my words, but as soon as they do, their captive cracks his fist against their jaw. The captor stumbles back from the impact. I have to blink rapidly as the man flashes past me in a blur so fast it can't be real. "Don't let him go," the figure calls, rubbing their jaw from the hit. The group tenses, obviously about to run after the speeding figure, but I move forwards and come to stand before them, my gun still raised. "Stay where you are!" Amazingly, they do. All 4 of them, and it gives me a slight boost in confidence. 4? I suddenly realize just how outnumbered I am, and my breathing speeds up a little. I can barely see them through the dark, not even able to make out their genders or specific features. My eyes flicker to my car where my radio is. The group of them now stand as a barrier between me and the vehicle. Backup is out of the question. Still, I have my gun. I tighten my fingers around the hilt of the weapon, finger hovering over the trigger. Having never shot my gun at a live target, I'm not particularly keen to start doing it now. My grip falters slightly, but I try to keep my stance straight and unmoving. One of the shadowed figures shuffles up a step closer. "Look, whoever you are, don't come any closer," I warn. "Or what?" another asks from the darkness, the question coming out in a half taunt. I swing my gun around to face the speaker, though I can barely make them out in the gloom. I lick my dry lips, though my throat is so dry it doesn't help any. "I will shoot." My voice wavers slightly, but I try to hold my ground. The gun suddenly feels like an iron weight in my hands, my fingers aching to keep it raised. There's a heavy silence, broken only by my breathing and the slight breeze that rattles through the surrounding trees. "She's bluffing," one of them suddenly says. "I say knock her out and let's go." There's a quick shift of movement from the corner of my eye as one of them steps closer. I drop my hand to my side, whipping my free hand back and grabbing the bottle of pepper spray I keep in my belt. There's a sharp shik sound as a fine mist and spray arches out of the bottle. The liquid splatters the figure and they stumble back, their hands raised in confused defense. My confidence lifts as they retreat a step. "Ugh, what is that smell?" one of the others asks. "Wait, did she just pepper spray you?" There's a peal of laughter from the same person, and my eyes widen to hear amusement and not concern for their friend. My focus is forced back to the one I sprayed, who is not doubled over in pain as expected, but instead wiping the liquid from their face and flicking it from their fingers in a disgusted motion. How can it have no effect? I drop the bottle of spray and grip my gun once again. "Please, I don't want to have to do anything more than just spray you," I call, raising the gun with slight difficulty. A knot of guilt tightens in my stomach. "I just need you to come to the station." "Feel free to try more than that," the one who was laughing says, amusement still staining their words. "Shut up," the sprayed one growls through the darkness. Their conversation makes me swallow hard, and I try to plant my feet firmer on the ground to steady myself. Clang! A metallic bang makes me swing around, only to find it's the doors of the warehouse creaking in the breeze. I turn back to face the group, but they've vanished. How could they be gone? I didn't even hear footsteps. With a heavy sigh, I stumble towards my car and lean heavily against the side. Adrenaline courses through my body, but I know in the morning I am going to hurt like never before. A dull ache throbbing at my side proves my point. My gaze turns down to the crumpled dents in the bonnet of my car, and I groan. Even with my body beginning to ache, I know I should look around before leaving, as much as my bed is calling to me. I push myself up and limp back towards the area where the fight and the strangers were. I bend down to retrieve my flashlight and pass the beam over the area. There is nothing of interest, and I am just about to give up and head home when the light catches something dark and glistening on the concrete. I shift over to it, crouching down to find it is blood. It must be from the person that got hit on the jaw. Moving back towards my car, I grab a small evidence kit and scoop up some of the blood on a cotton swab, figuring it can't hurt to test it out. I might get lucky, and they might be in the system. With a satisfied nod, I hobble back to my car, really beginning to feel the aftershock of my earlier fall. The car engine coughs to life as I stick the key in the ignition. I put it into gear the moment it starts, never having been so eager to get home. Meanwhile, in an office building at the edge of Wayhaven. Farah bursts out laughing as she walks up to the door of the out-of-the-way office building. Adam shoots her a glare. Are you finished? Farah glances at him before falling into laughter once more. Adam groans and shakes his head, slamming open the door with such force it almost rips away from its hinges. Take it easy, Nate says, placing a concerned hand on his friend's shoulder. Adam tries to do as suggested, but his back still tightens in annoyance and, though he would never admit it, embarrassment. Farah wipes away a tear from her eyes and grins, the expression far too much like a panther for anyone to think it's genuine. I still can't believe she soaked you in that stuff. You're gonna stink of it for a week. She was scared, Nate says. I don't care why she did it, Farah replies. I only care that she did. The look on our almighty leader's face when it happened. She claps Adam on the back and lets out another chortle, not noticing the tightening of Adam's jaw or the balling of his fist at his side. We should have taken her out as soon as we got there, Morgan says, a guttural growl rumbling at the back of her throat as she speaks. Farah turns to Morgan, arching a thick black brow. Ah, you're always such a people person. Nate rolls his eyes, his expression like a parent tired of their bickering children. The group continues on up the narrow flight of stairs until they reach a dark wood door, a panel of opaque glass obscuring the room inside. Adam pushes open the door, the group coming to a stop at the sight of a slim woman in a gray suit. A flash of sleek, bright red hair streams down over her shoulders. She looks up from the manila folder she was peering at and glares at them. I was expecting you an hour ago. A frown creases her brow as she looks over Adam. Why are you wet? Farah barely stifles a laugh as Adam waves away her question with a sharp breath. The group bustles inside, spreading themselves about the room. Nate takes a seat on the opposite side of the mahogany desk, fidgeting slightly when it's obviously not as comfy as it appeared. Morgan manages to scout out the darkest corner, a flash of flame glimmering in her eyes, followed by a ring of cigarette smoke circling from her lips. Farah flops into one of the other padded chairs, arms and legs draped over the sides and head lolled back. Ignoring his companions, Adam strides to the only window in the room. The fragile, slatted blind quivers at his touch as he peers through it to the street below. There's no one around, the woman says. She lets the file in her hands drop to the desk, the slap of paper on wood sounding at the light impact. So, Agent, Farah says, shifting slightly, what are we doing in this dump? Do you mean the town or the office? Morgan asks. Both, Farah replies. The two grin at each other, Morgan's stream of smoke becoming ragged as she chuckles. You should be more serious regarding this matter. You know how the last team in Wayhaven ended up. Her trailing words make them all tense, remembering the photos of the mangled bodies. Well, you did send a team of demons to do a vampire's job, Farah mutters, obviously trying to break the heavy silence. I called you here because I have a new objective to add to your current mission, the woman says, catching the group's attention. You are to protect the next victim. What? Morgan splutters. Even Nate leans forward, lacing his fingers together in confusion. Protection? That's not exactly our specialty, Farah says, everyone in the room nodding in agreement. The agent's lips thin, and she marches in front of the desk to stare at them. You're my team, she says, her gaze drawn back to the folder on the desk. There is no one else we, the agency, would trust with this assignment. The killer has run out of potential victims. There is only one left with the requirements he's after. The ones with the mutation in their blood, Nate asks, and the agent nods in confirmation. Why does the killer want them? Morgan asks through a puff of smoke. Doesn't the mutation mean he can't use his pheromones on them to get them to do what he wants, like normal humans? That didn't help his other victims, but we're not sure of his reasons, the agent replies quickly. You know who he is. You just have to find him and stop him. And also keep this new target safe, Farah asks. No trouble at all, then. Who are we being assigned to? Nate asks, leaning further forward. The agent frowns, her eyes watering for a moment. It's a soft expression the group has never seen from the woman in all their 10 years of working with her. It's... She begins, then straightens herself, her stiff expression returning. She reaches behind her to the folder, throwing it onto the small table in front of the group. It's my daughter. The group, surprised by this sudden announcement and not even aware Agent DeWolfe had a child, eventually glanced at the photo now spread in the open file. You've got to be kidding me, Adam says with a loud groan. Farah bursts out laughing. Their new assignment is protecting the detective they just met outside of the warehouse.